everybody, and welcome back to the Chilluminati podcast, episode 156. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Mike Jordan, joined by the Calamity Jane and Wild Bill Hickok of LA, Woo. Alex and Jesse.
Woo. Yee.
That should be the final Wild West reference for a while.
I'm just surprised at your depth and breadth of Wild West knowledge. It doesn't gel with the rest of your stuff.
Wild West iconic duos.
You just love what is it? The imagery, the romance.
Yeah, sure. I live in Texas now, so that's all. I'm bombarded with cowboy imagery, and I now dream of days where I could be herding cattle, having a stay-at-home wife milk them for me, and shoot people in the road if they cross me once.
What? Damn. What? That's the life, baby.
Yeah, that's the Wild West life.
Oh my God. All right.
I like how Alex is like, I'm going to take this from you now.
Speaking of taking things from people, head over to patreon.com/ChilluminatiPod, where we will take money from you in order to continue making the show with the quality that you like and the pace that you want. And in return, what do we give you? All kinds of great stuff. Episodes that go on beyond the realms of the episodes that we do in the public eye. There's a library of endless minisodes for you there. Not endless, but it might feel endless. And what else? What else do we have? Movies now. Yeah, we're doing movie commentaries. There's going to be a big blast at 2 really soon. Get ready for that. And what else? Art from Mel, the genius. T-shirts from other geniuses. Early access to everything we do. All kinds of good stuff. It's great.
Ad-free episodes.
That's right. You hate these commercials? Well, too bad. You're still listening to this one. But all the other ones in the episode, they're not going to be there. So at patreon.com/ChilluminatiPod, a place that you can go.
You could also go to theyeti.com/Chilluminati, because I got word that the plushies are about to be set free into the wilds. Got the confirmation email. So if you haven't signed up for notification, please do it, because I have a feeling these things are going to go kind of fast. People have been clamoring for these things the minute we kind of announced them. I love that the Yeti did this found footage little video for the Mothman announcement. I'm excited.
Can we set aside a couple for the house? I need to make sure I buy one of those. I don't want to
get one. Don't you worry. I don't want to
miss out on this damn sale because I'm on the damn show. I know that I don't have my shit together enough to jump on a sale. I know that I don't. I'm
trying to get the Patreon members a 24-hour window to get it before anybody else as well. See if I can manage to make that happen. I can't make any promises, but I'm trying.
And
really hard.
And if you do make that happen, where would you be? Where would you find it? Yeah.
You would find it at patreon.com/ChilluminatiPod. I would make it available to all tiers if we can get that to happen.
It's a great website.
It is. It's the finest website, Alex.
I love it.
All right, boys, it's time. This initial, what I thought was going to be a 2-parter that ended up turning into a 3-parter that forced its way into a 4-parter.
You were like, I don't know if I should just end this right now, or here's 3 other fucking unbelievable things that you guys will definitely want to hear. Should I do it or not?
Okay, well, that is going to continue today because, God, man, his life is fucking crazy. And we're going to continue with the story of Boone Helm. So in this final episode of the story of Boone Helm, aka the Kentucky Cannibal, we will observe with great interest Boone's extremely violent and equally ridiculous last few years of his life, where even his very last moment of life, the last breath he lets out, seems to be tailor written for him by a Hollywood author. It fits too well, much like we said Tommy Patera's life almost fits to a movie. Boone Helm's life would be like a dark comedy. I feel like if it was to be made into a movie, I think it would be like a dark serial killer kind of comedy with just how inept this man is.
A Coen Brothers movie.
Yes, sure. Yeah, like a Coen Brothers movie. They did that recent Adam Sandler one, right?
What?
No?
What Adam Sandler one?
Oh, the one where he was serious. Uncut Gems. That's the one.
Coen Brothers? No, that's the Safety Brothers. You were there. You were there.
There were brothers involved.
Siblings
I just know there were brothers involved.
Yeah, that's
brothers
true.
Were involved. But before that, we got to rejoin Boone where we left him, being run out of Salt Lake City by the very Mormons who just hired him as an assassin to kill 2 Christian landowners they believed were encroaching into their God-given territory of the Comstock Lode mine, which was a recently discovered silver mine. What they assumed was a man who'd been so adept at killing that he'd never get caught ended up being a man who drew the shortest line between himself and his target before pulling the trigger and killing whoever was supposed to be put in the ground. And after Boone had returned back to his employers after gunning 2 men down in the middle of the street, expecting a hero's welcome, money, women, and a life of luxury, only did he find that he got run out of town because there were still laws in Salt Lake City and Boone didn't kill his targets quietly or subtly. And so after that, Boone was very quickly run back into the wilds of Utah.
Fucking Mr. X over here, just fucking insane person. What did he think it was? What do you think the job was?
The job was to kill them. They just didn't give him explicit directions to do it subtly. So
that's
he just
like
walked
a bit
up
from
to them.
Terminator 2 when he doesn't understand human slang.
Yes, he just walked and he
Yeah.
emptied his gun into all of them.
Or Batman and Robin when he didn't understand human slang. Chill out.
Cheese.
It's funny because I'm made of ice.
I am Mr. Freeze.
Get it?
I saw that movie in the drive-in with my family. It was a good
You know
time.
what? That says a lot about you.
What? Wait, what does that say about me?
You saw in the drive-in. It says a lot about, like, you had a quaint upbringing. I love that. I love that about you.
Your regular beaver cleaver.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah, we'll go with that. It was a typical beaver cleaver lifestyle. So with Boone heading back into the wilds of Utah, we kind of fall into a sort of silent period with Boone Helm's known history. We know he survives, but what he does during this time in the wilderness is sort of unknown. Though from his history of how he survived before, I guess we can kind of deduce it wasn't really sitting by a campfire and singing Kumbaya. He was probably robbing, killing, and eating whatever he could get his grubby little paws on.
Damn.
When Boone
editorial
does
license.
that's my assumption. We don't
fucking
know.
Disgusting little mitts.
Listen, I am just, I picture Boone as like a wild man who doesn't actually ever bathe.
His sticky little fingers.
When Boone does pop back up in history again, it's with an encampment of day-night vigilantes waging war on the Ute Nation. It's highly unlikely that Boone stumbled across them and was able to work his way into their ranks naturally. So the assumption that historians have made about it is that Boone still had some allies left, maybe amongst the Mormons, who were able to put him into contact with these folk, assuming that their violent war and Boone's violent lifestyle would form kind of like an unholy union of sorts, and he'd maybe get put on a path that was more suited to his talent.
A violent, unholy union.
Who the fuck are these Mormons that are like, brother, it is pretty cool that he did kill those 2 men. I would say that's fairly badass. Why would they still like him?
I mean,
this is all assumption. We don't have records. It's just like what people kind of are assuming. And
historically, I think we look at, as like culturally look at Mormons as like, super nice, not drinking sodas, that kind of thing. But like historically, in order to claim their spot of land in the United States, Mormons tore it up. They were like, no, it's our land now. You get off or we'll kill you. Like that kind of stuff.
Oh,
I guess.
Which reminds me, a small correction from last episode. I said that Joseph Smith was still alive. He's dead at this point.
Yes.
He never made it to Salt Lake City.
Yeah, he never made it.
He got killed.
Yeah. Did you not see
Book of Mormon? A violent village
Did you not
fight.
see Book of Mormon when he got shot?
I did not see Book of Mormon,
on his way to Salt Lake City.
Yeah, he got shot. That's I completely mixed that up.
Please.
You guys ever heard the Beach Boys song about Salt Lake City?
No.
It's a little bit of a bummer. I don't know. Look it up.
Is that true?
Really, okay. They're like Salt Lake City. It's pretty. It's weak, man. It makes it doesn't sound fun.
Even with that small little note, I can definitely hear the Beach Boys in that. It's got that haunting, that haunting carried tune. I don't like it.
Check it out.
Well, while he was with the militia, it seemed like the Mormons were right for a time, that he did sort of fit this lifestyle. Alongside this militia, Boone would soon reinforce his already racist beliefs with those who espoused love for the Confederacy. And even when Boone thought himself surrounded by like-minded individuals, it would soon become apparent to all of them that even Boone was too cruel a man to keep around. Thank you to Talkspace for sponsoring this episode, and my spring cleaning is going well, but the one thing I've always been on top of is my own mental health. Why let it get cluttered and out of control if I can take care of myself and keep my thoughts organized and my goals moving forward? There's something rejuvenating about getting down to what's essential and starting fresh, and the same thing goes for your mind. Over the years, thoughts and emotions can build up. That's why it's important to talk to someone who's trained to help you declutter that mental space of yours. I go to bat for therapy every single time I talk about it, and guess what? This is no different. Therapy is so helpful. You go to a regular doctor to get your body checked up. Why don't you go to a therapist and keep your mind on checkup? And we all know that taking those first steps sometimes can be super scary. But no matter where you are in your mental health journey, talking to a therapist who's trained to help will make a huge difference. Talkspace takes some of the pressure off that first step. It's a more flexible, convenient, and affordable way to get high quality care. And once you match with one of their licensed therapists, you can message them anytime through the app or schedule a live session if you need some FaceTime. Most importantly to me, Talkspace is private, secure, and accessible. It's everything that you love about therapy without any of the stuff that gets in the way. If thoughts and emotions are beginning to pile up, a fresh perspective can help you feel better. Match with your dedicated therapist today at Talkspace.com and use promo code CHILL during sign up to get $100 off your first month. That's $100 off at Talkspace.com, promo code CHILL. Now, kind of a small trigger warning for some people in the next bit of an explanation of what Boone was doing at this time. While it was common for the militiamen, after defeating a village of native people, to rape the native women and pass them from man to man to quote unquote improve their morale, Boone seemed to have a much bigger interest in torturing the women that found their way into his captivity. The soldiers noted that whenever a woman got passed off to Boone, there was little left for the next man to enjoy, that he mutilated them too much to be beyond recognition. And this noted example in particular is why in last episode, I pondered if Boone actually was like the true definition of like a serial killer, one who does it more for the pleasure aspects rather than the impulsivity reasons. Moreover, if these stories are accurate, then Boone would seem to fall into a mixed category of process killer when he had the safety of doing so, and product killer when time was short and his survival was more important. For those who don't know, a process serial killer is one who derives his or her sexual pleasure, usually sexual pleasure, from the process of brutally torturing and controlling their victims until they die. Well, a product killer is one who wants what comes after the kill. They don't take any pleasure in the actual murder. They want the body or the valuables or whatever it is that they're afterward. And my amateurish opinion, notably, obviously, is that Boone was wholeheartedly a process killer inside who was forced to be a product killer when the wilds forced him to be that.
Is it possible to transfer between the two? Like,
that's what I'm. Yeah.
Have you ever heard of Jar Jar Binks?
I mean, just the way that the way that you talk about it in the beginning is the things he does. Like, he's already a brutal human being to begin with, and he's clearly self-centered and selfish. And so the idea of him killing a person to eat them to live, to him makes sense because he's trying to stay alive and he's the most important person in that situation. And so all the things he does in order to stay alive in that initial thing is because, like, I'm looking out for me. And is there a certain point perhaps while killing and eating or whatever, where you're just kind of like, I just murdered that person. Like, that was wild. I kind of want to see what that was like, you know, like that kind of thing where suddenly you're now like, oh, I'm into the intricacies of what just happened.
Yeah.
Like, I cut that person's leg off and he was fine. He lived. So, like,
I agree.
Can I hurt a person? You know what I mean?
Fine.
So, yeah, well, you're right, because a lot of serial killers do go through that ramp up situation. And almost always a serial killer's first kill is accidental, or at least they've set themselves up to where it's so much easier for the accident to happen. And once, like you said, they have that happen, that triggers that release, and they realize how much they love it. That's usually what triggers them falling into the phase of a true serial killer. And if we look at Boone, you know, we look back at the first episode, when he was a kid who who would beat people to death and had to be pulled off, he was clearly enjoying the violence, even as a kid, of just the process of beating somebody ruthlessly and inflicting pain upon them. And if anybody got in the way, he went out of his way to go beat the people who pulled him off the person he was beating. Like,
either that or he was just like real dumb, like just really did not care. You know what I mean?
I'm sure that's a huge part of it. I mean, he was getting into lots of fights. Sure, he got knocked in the head a bunch of times too, which is very typical for a killer. But yeah, Jesse, yes, to kind of go round back to your point, yeah, killers can waft back and forth and discover new things about themselves when they make that first cross that line. And I do wonder if the first time he ate somebody or kept that guy alive, another like switch flipped in his head. And now he had something new that he was like, I love this.
Yeah, I mean,
Sorry,
just,
sipping coffee.
the more I think about it, the more it seems like a guy who, when you talk about the way he suddenly was like, oh, I'm going to torture people, it seems like in his mind, the torture is the experiment of like, oh, I cut off that guy's leg and I was going to eat him a whole, like, what are the pain thresholds? What is it like when you do this? It's like, you know, it seems in his mind like a totally normal thing to do because he's learning, right? But in reality, it's like, you're a butcher, bro. You're terrible.
It's also like for him less about being a connoisseur and more just about like the power that comes from like the definite win that is killing someone.
Well, you know I mean? It's the same vibe as the like Nazi doctors who would torture and hurt people. In their mind, they're like, I'm doing this for science, but also I really like doing this. You know, like it's that they can justify it.
Mengele is like such a perfect example of that.
Yeah, they can justify the terrible things they've done because in their mind, they're like doing it for a better thing. But also this guy just kind of like enjoys it. He likes it.
And it doesn't hurt that he constantly is getting away with everything. He just keeps slipping through the cracks and he has no consequence for this man's actions. He's starting to feel invincible. But he's still within the militia. He's obviously extremely violent and too violent for the people he's working with, to the point where eventually the militia removed him from a lot of the group's assaults and activities and would send him out with one other scouting partner for expedition scouting missions for days at a time, just to get rid of him and just separate him from the army. Eventually, the solitude and lack of camaraderie got to Boone, and he decided to simply abandon his post one day and wander back into the wilds to head back toward Oregon, where the wistful memories of being a bandit king in the streets drew him like a siren song.
I loved it when I used to be able to kill people and not get in trouble for killing people.
Literally like that. And not even that, like, but he missed like the money and the power that came with it, not like being beholden to another army. Like,
it probably felt like his fucking glory days vibes.
Bingo. That's exactly what it was. He was very wistful for his glory days. And for whatever reason, another, feather in the cap of serial killers, he was able to convince his scouting partner to dip with him that very same day and bring him along on the trip to Oregon with him, which also to me feeds into that Boone is very clearly a narcissist because he needs a source. He needs a supply to feed off of. This man lives and dies by his reputation. He likes being seen for the monster that he is, which is why when the militia separated him, he's like, this sucks. Nobody's here like being awed at how crazy I am or how all the stories he tells people when he goes into town. And so this guy, he was able to convince this guy to come along with him. And now he's got like a lucky number two that'll like worship him all along the way. The bandit life suited them for a while until the winter once again began to settle in, and it seemed Boone had finally learned his lesson. The duo eventually made their way to a small outpost called Antler Creek, where they spent their ill-gotten gains on food, drink, and a warm bed while filling their ears with the local rumors, which miners passed through and how long ago. It's like one of those stop and sleep for a night or two and keep moving.
Sure.
It's here in Antler Creek that the two of them learned of a small French mining crew that had just passed through Antler Creek with a ton of gold dust, which is what the two of them were after, because gold dust was worth a lot of money and way easier to carry than bars, nuggets, and other things. And the crew was on their way to Quesnel Forks for the winter, along with another pair of miners heading the same way. And I think you're going to love these names by the name of Irish Tommy and W.T. Collinson.
You know what? I didn't think you were going to do better than Irish Tommy, but when you broke out the WT, I knew all bets were off.
Those are like Red Deadiverse OCs.
Yes.
They're like, they're like a little bit too colorful cowboy character names. D&D Cowboys names.
Amazing.
Now Boone and his partner knew of their next target and left before long to catch up with them before they got to Quesnel Forks. They wanted to catch them and rob them before they got to stow away and be safe for the winter. Unfortunately for the French crew being led by the man of the name of Sokolowski, Sokolowski was leading the Frenchman crew. Yeah,
my name is Penis Sokolowski.
He's French though.
Oh no. Okay, I'm out.
Yeah.
Okay, so French. He wasn't French, but the other two men in his crew were French.
Okay, no, you're right. It's me, Penis Sokolowski. And then his two French guys. Like, he's a crazy name, no?
Well, unfortunately for this crew,
English.
I don't know.
Sokolowski was actually the only...
Is it the English name? Is Sokolowski?
Sokolowski was... I keep interrupting you. I'm sorry.
No, he's a beat. He's no worry. He's no worry. Don't be. Americans always interrupt my beats.
Sokolowski was actually the only one in the crew that spoke English. The two Frenchmen did not speak a lick of English.
So that's why they couldn't. It's good. So they couldn't make fun of him for having the last name Sokolowski.
And more notably to Irish Tommy and W.T. Collinson, they were extremely slow walkers.
Irish Tommy has a 6-gun with a big green, like diamond shamrock on the side.
Yes, absolutely.
And he wears like extremely colorful clothes. He looks like an endgame character.
WT has a monocle. I don't care why or how he has a monocle.
He's like an oil baron in battle armor is what he is.
Yes.
It's a fucking Borderlands boss.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, Sokolowski and his Frenchman crew were slow hikers, and they were ready to set up camp well before Irish Tommy and Collinson were. So, and the campsite that they chose
sound
was
like drinks.
And the campsite that Sokolowski and the Frenchman crew chose was not safe, according to Irish Tommy, out in the open, and they could still make more progress if they just kept marching. So Tommy and Collinson continued for 3 more miles before they set up their own camp themselves, way more hidden and way more safe. This would only spell doom for Sokolowski and crew, because late at night, as they were winding down for the evening, Boone and his lackey walked into camp, guns ablazing. Ooh. All 3 of the men were killed, along with all of their horses and mules.
Whoa!
Yeah, they didn't have any attempt at like words with these guys.
What the fuck is going on?
Boone and his we don't have a name for this guy, so we're just calling him Boone and his buddy.
The sheer audacity of these motherfuckers.
Yeah, they pocketed as much of the gold dust as they could, but ended up with over $30,000 worth of gold dust and valuables that was just loaded on the mules and the horses. And not wanting to stick around the crime scene for long, because obviously it was a hot crime scene, they went and became a pirate with it. And they took the treasure off-road and buried it a good ways away with the intentions of coming back for it weeks later after all the heat has died down around the fresh murders of 3 miners.
That's like a year's salary in today money.
I know. And it was, I'm curious what that was in like, oh man, let's look real quick.
Yeah, $30,000.
$30,000, 1850, we'll just say to now. That's over $1.1 million in cash, basically, is what we're looking at. That's so much money. All just buried on the side of the road. As for the bodies, though, they didn't bother even hiding them. They just left them out, splayed open to rot in the wild, only to be discovered the next day. And in fact, you can actually go see their graves. They're still marked to this day, that the 3 people who were killed by Boone Helm. One of them was Sokolowski, I think it was Jewish. So he couldn't be buried in the cemetery. So he got his own special grave, and he got his own special ceremony to bury him back in that day in the 1800s. Irish Tommy and Collinson, however, only learned of the fate of these 3 men the next day after they'd arrived in Quesnel, as the 3 corpses were carted into town after they had arrived.
Maybe
The
I'm
two
just dead in my soul now because of how much just utter despair has come from all these murders.
That makes me so happy.
But I think that from now on, if you just made all the names this silly, that I would be less it would be less of a bummer for me to sit through these like horrific tales if everybody's name was like fucking Irish Tommy and shit.
Also, it needs to be almost 200 years ago, where there's been enough history and time between these horrific things that they just seem fantastical in nature. Thanks to HelloFresh for sponsoring this episode. And if you don't know what HelloFresh is, let me explain it for you, you cutie. Look at you. Cutie. With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. And if you already use HelloFresh and you're going away for the summer, you can update your delivery address and enjoy HelloFresh at your vacation destination with a simple click. Plans are flexible, so they work with your changing schedule. Foolproof, step-by-step recipes mean a joyful cooking experience with a stress-free summer. Plus, HelloFresh cuts back on time spent in the kitchen with meals ready in around 30 minutes or less. Yeah, some of the quick prep options take only 20 minutes. I did a lemon chicken pasta the other day, and it was so yummy. And I had no time to make it. It was perfect. If you want to cut down your time in the kitchen, the amount of money you spend at the grocery store, and just have good meals, go to HelloFresh.com/chill16 and use code chill16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. That's HelloFresh.com/chill16 and use code chill16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. Thanks again to HelloFresh for sponsoring this episode, America's #1 meal kit. Obviously, Irish Tommy and Collinson were worried the bandits who committed these murders might still be close, or worse, still looking for them to find and rob them next. But the mysterious culprit wouldn't be mysterious for very long. Boone's own reputation was no longer working in his favor, and now having become the inevitable wave of his demise. Within hours, word of the infamous criminal and murderer Boone Helm having left Antler Creek swafted its way into Quesnel, and the town very quickly mustered up a $700 bounty for the capture of Boone. Many assumed he'd head toward the water, and when the posse had been mustered, that's the direction they went. While Irish Tommy and Collinson made a decision to continue down the path they intended to try and put as much distance between them and Boone Helm as possible, purely out of fear. And they pushed for days, with no sign of Boone or his murderous companion the whole while. And as they had finally felt they'd put enough distance between them and the town, the muzzle of a double-barreled shotgun was shoved into Collinson's back, while Boone's voice grumbled, "Put your hands up." Tommy and Collinson were robbed. But in a very rare case when it comes to Boone Helm, their lives were spared. When they were finished robbing both the Tommy and Collinson, Boone simply commanded, quote, "Get down and don't look back," while Boone and his partner walked off. Collinson would go on to wonder or suspect that they may have been out of ammunition, but I'm not entirely sure about that, knowing Boone's penchant for violent slaughter. Boone seemed to love to kill no matter what, so even if he was out of ammo, I wonder why he decided not to just end their lives there, knowing Boone's history. It's just curious that he got to live to tell the tale. So this one of Boone's victims actually, we have firsthand experience with it. Coffee sip. The next time we know of Boone and his friend were when they arrived across the border from US to Canada in Victoria.
This dude just fucking made it. This guy just got out of there.
I need to ask this question. I need to ask. Is there a Kentucky in Canada?
Nope.
Yeah, Kentucky, BC.
Do you think, before we get to the end of this episode, that we will make our way back to Kentucky?
I don't think it's going to happen. I am almost convinced it's not going to happen.
What about you, Alex? What are your bets?
There's going to be some other reason that he's called Kentucky. It's gonna like end up at Kentucky Fried Chicken or something.
The Kentucky Cannibal is so far.
He's gonna like turn out to be the Colonel or some shit. Like I don't know what the fuck's gonna happen.
All right, we'll see what happens. So yeah, he kind of goes silent again after this robbing, and he pops up weeks later in Victoria, Canada. Now it's here his reputation had not quite yet caught up with him. And once again, the two of them had a place to rest, relax, and do their favorite thing, drink. And without skipping a beat, Boone fell back into old habits, running up a huge tab at the local saloon. And when the bartender came looking for the money Boone owed, Boone simply replied, quote, "Don't you know I'm a desperate character?"
Oof.
Get out of my fucking face, boss.
This, however, did not faze the bartender, who simply sent a boy out to go grab a sheriff by the name of Blake. While the town themselves may not have known who the name Boone Helm was, Sheriff Blake had heard that's who was in town and knew of the rumors that followed that name. He knew he had a serious criminal on his hands. While he had known of Boone, he also had no evidence that would hold in court. So when he went to go arrest Boone, which he did, he could only legally hold Boone for 3 days before Boone was brought before a judge for his unpaid bar tab. And Blake did the only thing he could think of doing, and he sent men out. He sent men out across the border to see if they could get a proper extradition request from the USA to hopefully get Boone in proper custody and put away for life.
What? Over that?
Well, no, he not over the unpaid tab. The sheriff knew of Boone's history. He just had no evidence.
So this is like they're trying to bring down Capone. They're like, you know what? Well, just taxes. Just get him in prison.
They're trying to bring down Capone, except it's just like a fucking dumbass.
This is crazy. This is crazy.
He has no evidence of crimes in Canada. He knows of the rumors because the rumors have made their way from traders and miners across the border.
All right, there's rumors of this man going around doing terrible stuff, and everyone's just kind of like, you know what? Invite him into town. Maybe he'll kill some people for us.
The locals hadn't heard of it. The sheriff had. Like, the locals weren't really aware of Boone at this point.
Oh my God.
You also got to give him, this is the Wild West. News travels way slower than it does now. And only like, you don't know what's rumor and what's not. People are making up shit about themselves all the time to sound way more badass than they actually are.
That hasn't changed. That shit's still going on.
Exactly. Humans are being humans 200 years later. And so he had 3 days. He sent out men on horseback, hoping to let the U.S. know, hey, we've got Boone Helm, this guy who's murdered a ton of people. Do you give us an extradition request and he's yours, because they got to do it legally. And for 3 days, Blake sat and watched Boone rot in his cell, who had quickly gotten himself a lawyer under promise of a big payday when he was released. And Boone's lawyer went by the name of Mr. Bishop.
I can't. This is the most well-written story I've ever heard in my entire life.
It's fucking stupid. It's insane to me.
You think it's better than Tommy Pateras?
Much better. Tommy Pateras was great, but this story, it's got character names.
Tommy Patera had to work. He was disciplined. He had skills. It makes sense why he was so successful.
Trained to be a killer.
He worked. He spent his life becoming a murderer. This guy just was like,
this guy comically failed up to serial killer. It's hard. It's impossible to think that this guy got as far as he did.
This guy sucks.
It's history tried to forget this man for a reason, I think.
I'm trying to forget this man.
So once those 3 days were over and men had not returned from the U.S. with an extradition request, he was brought before a judge. Blake, empty-handed beyond the crime of an unpaid tab, and with the blustering arguments of Mr. Bishop, Boone was essentially given the harshest punishment he could receive for money owed. He was stuck in jail for 4 weeks unless he paid a $50 bond. That's all it took. The funny part was Boone was fucking broke. He had spent everything he had in town on drink and women and was unable to pay the $50 bond, while his lawyer slowly came to the realization that he had no money to pay him. God. And now, though, Sheriff Blake received a reprieve. He had 4 more weeks to hear back from the US for extradition, and he'd finally had hope that they would have enough time to get Boone properly behind bars. During this time, Boone would be put on a chain gang and sent to work mining and chipping away at rocks and shit for 4 straight weeks. And those 4 weeks came and went. And on the last day, Blake had to hand back every weapon Boone had confiscated from him and watch him strap all of his arms back on.
This is absolutely insane.
And watch as Boone left town a free man with nigh a word from the U.S. for extradition.
On.
Eventually, however,
crazy.
Sheriff Blake would hear word, and it was exactly what he had hoped and expected. It was a letter for extradition that found its way into Blake's lap 3 days after Boone had been sent free.
This is like the end of Usual Suspects. This is insane to me, though. This is like...
He's the luckiest idiot that ever lived.
I can't believe this.
Guy sucks.
And it keeps going. Because during those 4 weeks of chain gang imprisonment, Boone had been who had became very close friends with another man by the name of Dirty Harris.
Cool.
No.
Cool. A real
Boone
guy.
and Dirty Harris became extremely close.
Didn't we talk about Dirty Harris already? A little bit?
I teased about him in the end of last episode because I was going to just blast through this.
Right.
Dirty Harris was so close with Boone that he considered Boone his brother at the end of their imprisonment together. They were released on the same day and met up outside of town where Boone learned that Dirty Harris was the owner of a pack train that had been kept running while he was locked up. Not wanting to leave his newfound brother behind, Boone was actually able to travel on this train with him, planning to head back to Antler Creek to unbury the $30,000 in valuables that were waiting for him. But unfortunately for Boone, he wouldn't be able to cross the border before running into a familiar face, W.T. Collinson.
Yo! Get him, W.T.!
Collinson was in Sumas, which is a part of Canada. And instead of keeping his head down this time, like he did last time and leaving, this time Collinson alerted the authorities and the British put together a hunting crew to go out and arrest Boone for proper extradition to the US. And so Boone was immediately forced again into the wilderness from the train, unable to spend time in the town. And this time he planned to go alone. But Dirty Harris would have none of it. Boone was sorry.
But Dirty Harris, you can't keep saying Dirty Harris.
I can because I like the name.
But Dirty Harris.
Littleberry Shoot, Dirty Harris, Irish Tommy, W.T. Collinson. To Dirty Harris, Boone was his brother now. And if that meant leaving his well-owned train behind, then so be it. And after all this time, Boone still had no idea how to survive in the wilderness. And now he was leading Dirty Harris to live in the wilds in the
fucking
meantime.
hate this guy, dude. He sucks.
Once again, history loses touch with Boone at this point. The next time he pops up is weeks later, toward the end of the British attempts to find him. As they were days away from ending their hunt, they stumbled on a familiar sight to us at this point. A thin, malnourished, exhausted Boone whose clothing hung from his limbs and with Dirty Harris nowhere in sight. Much like before.
What the fuck?
Much like before, Boone simply gave himself up willingly, and when asked about where his partner was, he replied, quote, "Why, do you suppose that I'm fool enough to starve to death when I can help it? I ate him up, of course."
No.
I don't even know what to say. This guy just never, he got his cake and he ate that shit.
Yeah. It had a name, that cake, and he ate it.
It was
The only thing
was the best tasting of those he ate.
The Littleberry.
He didn't eat Littleberry.
Oh, he did. He didn't.
only
He
killed
just murdered
Littleberry.
him.
Yeah, he ate the miner that he shot from the hill. Remember the guy who just shot in the head?
Yeah.
And then he ate Burton, and then he ate Dirty Harris.
Oh yeah, Burton. Burton's a survivor. Burton's got a lot of meat on his bones.
Yeah. He really wanted to preserve Burton, so yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Dirty Harris became meal number 3. We will never know if he got to do what he wanted to do with Burton, where he kept him alive over the course of days. We don't know if it was similar, like where maybe Dirty Harris just died in an accident and he just didn't let the corpse go to waste. Like, we don't know. Boone never elaborated on what happened beyond that, because basically from this point on, Boone once again gave himself up. He didn't resist. He assumed that, this was it. He was done for if he didn't give himself up because he was in the wilds. And Boone was actually finally 100% caught. And the US was going to extradite him back, where he would live out the rest of his days rotting in a prison and likely hung.
If you tell me that this motherfucker breaks out of prison and eats a man named Kentucky, I'm walking off of the show.
No, Alex, don't put that out there. No,
I'm walking off of this show.
I didn't even think about that. Oh no!
If he eats a man called Kentucky, I'm gone.
Little did you know, I hid the title from you and that it's 2 separate words. It's a proper noun.
Kentucky.
For the next few weeks, through horseback and train rides, Boone was watched over by a bunch of guards, but one singular one who, much like the guards from before, kind of grew friendly with Boone, sharing cigarettes, swapping stories, drinking whiskey. But unlike the one from the mental facility, he never felt the need to take off Boone's handcuffs or give him an iota of freedom, because Boone's reputation was so well known at this point. And so, through horseback and ferry, over the course of weeks, Boone did end up being extradited back to the US into Port Townsend, where it was to be his final home among many other criminals. In fact, the prison within Port Townsend was notoriously overfilled, with way more prisoners than the guards could reasonably keep track of and watch over. Something Boone noted instantly.
Come on.
Just wait. Within days, Boone had acquired himself a knife and spent each night digging away a small secret tunnel just under where he slept. Eventually, Boone was able to slip out, and it would be 3 days before they even noticed he was missing, and a whole extra day before they found and realized there was a hole hiding all under the rags shoved into the corner of his room.
He out Andy Dufresne. I can't. I don't know how to like respond to this. The man, he's not a good man, but hell has he led a life. Holy shit. I can't get over it. There's more.
This song
keeps happening.
Boy, there's more.
This is the Gambler,
there's not
dude.
so much more.
This is the song, The Gambler, in a person.
No, it's what?
This is The Gambler.
The Gambler.
Yeah.
We're barreling toward the end of the story here, but there's still more to go. Now, not only had he dug a tunnel under his own cell walls, the tunnel extended past the building and under the exterior prison walls as well.
How, bro?
It was a huge tunnel. So clearly his mining experience gave him a little bit of know-how to get him out of there. And apparently, according to the records, the tunnel was super tiny, like only he could have fit through. Like, I imagine it was one of those ones where he didn't need to like let his breath out. And he's just like,
what the fuck, dude?
It's nuts. And Boone was once again a free man. And with 4 days head start, the prison decided that there was no way, even on horseback, that they were going to be able to catch up to him. And so they let him go.
I hate this guy.
And you have to keep in mind, too, at this time, I believe I'm correct. You feel free to email me at chilluminatipod@gmail.com to let me know I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But I believe at this time it was still legal. Like, it wasn't like an extra criminal offense for prisoners to attempt to escape, because freedom was like a natural impulse of man, according to like the law. Yet, we could do a quick Google. I don't know if that's correct or at this time.
He wanted it bad enough and he got out.
Prison legal.
God bless
long
you.
ago. Thank you to Felix Gray for sponsoring this episode. I love my Felix Gray glasses. The blue light filtering has saved me so many headaches. I use them every single day, and they just look like normal glasses. None of that weird futuristic look going for them. I know they tell me that I can read stuff off of a paper, but I'm just going to tell you I love them. I literally use them daily. It's the blue light from monitors, phones, tablets, computers, etc. that give you the headache and keep you up later than you want to be, affecting your sleep more than you'd like it to. Wearing blue light glasses helps to alleviate those symptoms and help you readjust to a less blue light intense experience in front of your computer. 5 years ago, Felix Gray set out to create the eyewear that would improve daily screen time, and Felix Gray lenses filter 15 times more blue light that can make screen time tough on eyes and disruptive to sleep. And again, if you're curious how they do it, unlike most companies who make blue light glasses, where they put the blue light filter over the lens after it's already been made, Felix Gray builds that blue light filtering technology right into the lens itself, so it is way more effective and an essential part of the glasses construction. For the best blue light glasses on the market, use our URL, felixgrayglasses.com/chill. Non-prescription and prescription glasses are both available. Check them out now at felixgrayglasses.com/chill. That's FELIXGRAY glasses.com/chill. Free shipping, free returns, free exchanges. felixgrayglasses.com/chill.
You know what? It's not a natural state to be in prison, so I don't blame him for trying to get out, but I'm going to let you know. He got out.
I'm telling you, it used to be legal.
He got out
like
good.
God bless him.
In the US. I have to look that up now.
He wanted it bad enough, and he did it.
Eventually it became a felony.
If he would just try himself, he could do anything.
I say God bless him.
But now, guess what? Boone's back in the wilderness.
Boone's back, baby.
Boone is back in the wilderness. And as far as we know, Boone once again took up to his normal shenanigans of being a robber and murderer, surviving in the wilds for as best as he could.
As you would.
As you would, of course.
As you would.
But Boone had become much more paranoid as the past months and years had gone on. And instead of being more confident about approaching wild bandits, approaching bandits out on the roads or attempting to murder somebody and take their camp, he hid, never using a fire to warm himself at night or cook food, finding small hidden away enclosures or more particularly sleeping under haystacks of fields he found on his travels. Eventually, his wandering would find him out in Florence, and not a lawman, not a bounty hunter as he worried, but a rancher stumbled across poor old Boone Helm, who at this point, popping up in history again, looked malnourished, exhausted, and beaten from trying to survive in the wilds by himself for God knows how long.
And that man's name was Kentucky.
No, though that would be amazing if it was. No, this man's name was Mr. Brandian.
Say that again?
Mr. Brandian.
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 Oh, he's a Vulcan.
Yes, he's a Vulcan. Correct.
Brandian.
Brandian.
Yeah, Mr. Brandian was the man that kind of like stumbled across him and saved him. He felt pity for him and offered him a retreat. Mr. Brandian took Boone under his wing back to his huge ranch, and it's here Boone realized Mr. Brandian was extraordinarily wealthy. Not only that, but he had a respect for people who were the what you would call cowboys, I suppose. Warriors of the Wild West, people who sought and appreciated their freedom more than anything else.
Cool.
And for that, he enjoyed Boone's company. He offered Boone a soft, warm bed. They played cards every night for weeks, swapped stories, drank expensive brandy and whiskey, and genuinely enjoyed each other's company. Boone was living in the lap of luxury. All because a rancher stumbled across him while he was cowering in a what do you call it? A haystack.
I fucking
over
hate
the
this
course
guy,
of a
dude.
night. This is the part that blows me away the most of his story, is that through all of this, he then stumbles across what is essentially a multi-millionaire. And it's nuts that he was able to even just it doesn't sound like he smooth talked this rancher. It simply seems like the rancher was like, had respect for this guy. And that was really the end of it. It's kind of nuts. But that wouldn't last long because Boone grew bored after some time.
Grew bored.
This is the part that kills me. And this is the part, another example, in my opinion, that points to Boone just being a serial killer because he was completely safe. This man had no intention of turning him over to the law. He enjoyed, like I said, he enjoyed spending nights with Boone. Everything about Boone's company he liked, and this was very, very strange to Boone. Again, he had some of the best food, best drink. He could have anything he want, and this guy never asked him to work once. He literally just wanted Boone to hang out, and that's all he wanted. But there was too much temptation. He could have all of this.
I hate this guy.
And
Too much temptation for what?
That's what I'm saying.
Boone saw all of this and decided he could have it. This could be all
You already did.
his.
You already did
my
have
God.
it. He was living in the life. Oh my God. This is like hearing like I ran all these KFCs, but you know what I needed? Murder. Like, bitch, you had everything you needed. It's so frustrating. Oh my God.
Dude, I can't wait. There's still some more to go.
How?
So,
How is this man still alive and kicking?
After a night of drinking and playing cards, after the rancher went to bed, Boone grabbed his Bowie knife, snuck into the man's bedroom, straddled him, and pressed the Bowie knife against the man's neck and slit it from side to side.
Why,
killing him,
dude?
Killing the man in his own bed with a pool of blood building underneath.
God
Yeah,
damn.
He just murdered him for there was at least, it's interesting. Again, another interesting thing to look at. It's interesting because Boone, at least as far as we know, has kind of rationalized most of his murders. I had to eat, or I had nothing else, or I had no money, or I needed a horse. Everything was rationalized in some way. This one seemed completely out of nowhere. And this seemed like, to me, as somebody who's like really read a lot about serial killers, is when a serial killer has their cool off period after they've gotten a kill, you know, they kind of put it away. The urge is done. But eventually the urge rises back and it becomes an uncontrollable itch for these people. And it seems like no matter how good his life is, this man needed to kill. It was just something he enjoyed. It's something he liked to do.
Right.
And so he did. And he pocketed as much as he possibly could, took a horse and rode off into the wilds again. And off he went. And, you know, when you kill somebody that famous and that rich, it doesn't take long before the authorities end up figuring it out. And soon, another posse was sent out to look for Boone, a man whose reputation followed him, a man whose known escape from the prison had become more common knowledge, and a man who had been supposedly seen wandering in this territory from rumors. And they eventually caught him again.
And then, but he was greased, and so he slipped out of their hands and down into a pile of bacon and shelter.
And off to prison he got taken again, this time with the intent of hanging from the gallows at the end of his trial. But Boone had one last trick up his sleeve. His last card he knew he could only play once, and then it would be useless again. Remember, Boone had siblings, many of them. And over the years, he did attempt to keep contact with those he found at least valuable. And one of the ones he kept regular contact with was his older brother, who had become rather successful, owned his own mining company, and had quite a bit of money. His brother went by the name of Old Tex.
Dude.
Tex, man. Old Tex.
Old Tex, baby. OLE Tex.
It's like you teased the names and then they ended up being fucking exactly what they sound like, both of them.
Well, Boone sent out a letter to his brother Old Tex telling him that he needed to head to Florence to get him out of this jam before the trial started, and that he'd been in a lot of trouble and he wanted to try and turn his life around. And like a dutiful brother, Old Tex responded, arriving in Florence with his own small posse of people a month before the trial was even scheduled to happen. And Old Tex threw a ton of money, built one of the best legal teams that he could in the area, and through a lot of arguing and courtroom shenanigans, he was actually able to get Boone out of prison.
What the fuck?
Yeah, he was. I don't. It's like it's nuts that he. But you want to know why?
He wanted it bad enough, so we just gave it to him.
He did what honestly any Hollywood script would do. He came with a ton of money and he greased a ton of palms. He paid off officers, judges. Old Tex just paid everybody off with all the money he had made from owning a very valuable piece of land early on in his life. And all the people paid off meant no witnesses showed up for Boone's trial. Nobody was able to testify against him. And by the end of the trial, they had no choice but to let Boone go. Money literally scooted through Boone. And Boone had promised his brother that he would return to Idaho with him, work the mines, become an honest man, and with the money he would earn, he would buy himself his own piece of land and reintegrate himself back into Old Tex's family. He'd be able to be his brother again. And when they were on the road, only a few days in, what do you think Boone did but leave?
Oh my God.
This motherfucker, dude.
He had no interest in being with anybody. He wanted to be alone. He wanted to be wandering the woods, doing the only thing he cared about. Robbing and killing people.
Single player video games.
Literally, this is all he wanted. And this pissed off his brother, where his brother essentially said, forget it. Like he no longer from that point on, like refused to speak about Boone for a long time because Boone basically used him for everything he had just to escape, only to go back to his bad habits once again.
Come on.
He went back to the roads, being a bandit, heading over to the border into Montana, where he hoped to find new opportunities and new horizons to rob new people anew and build another wealth to his own
Montana.
name. He was, Montana, the land of riches and promises. And there he was able to build a small reputation for himself. Eventually, however, Boone, his own reputation got him notified. A group called the Innocents, working within Montana, an organized crime group, had gotten word Boone had made their way into town.
Come on.
The leader of the Innocents.
Boba Fett.
Nobody.
Oh, no. Yeah, okay.
No. The leader of the Innocents, who nobody actually really knew except for the higher ups, wanted to have an interview with Boone. They sent a messenger, sending a cryptic location and time to meet. And that's where the head of the Innocents would meet with Boone, have an interview with him, and essentially decide if he would offer Boone the opportunity to join the Innocents or not.
Innocents.
In this part of Montana,
Fucking Star Wars rebels,
right?
In this part of Montana, it was well known the Innocents were really the law of the road. That they always were able to skirt past the law, or if they were in jail, they always ended up getting out way sooner than they should have. And getting to deal with and basically poaching innocent ground, which is what Boone was doing, robbing people on their, like, in their territory, what got their attention. He had no idea because he's just Boone. And he's just like, I'm robbing, I'm killing. It's like he's applying without realizing he's applying for a position. And so Boone, out of curiosity, figured, hey, why not? Let's see what this is all about. And when he arrived for the meeting, this is where Boone learned that the head of the Innocents was actually the sheriff of the town.
Are you kidding me?
Nope.
We do things a little differently around here.
Come on.
His name was Henry Plummer.
Okay. That's like the most normal name in the whole fucking story.
Yeah, so far.
Yeah. He was the head of the Innocents, and essentially he gave Boone two options. He could join the Innocents and work for him, or he could walk a free man. with the implication that he wasn't going to be allowed to walk a free man.
Oh, shit.
Because the sheriff was going to either take him in as a prisoner for being a murderer and make it look good for him, or get him to work for him and the plan, his initial plan was to make Boone like his enforcer, to go out and like break knees and shit. And Boone accepted. And for a while, he worked as his enforcer. He went out, broke legs, got extremely violent, and basically took care of the more violent jobs that the innocents needed get done doing. But eventually, as Boone always did, he crossed a line and killed somebody he wasn't supposed to. And this would be the actual final time Boone Helm was arrested. He was not getting out of this one, especially with the head of the innocents being in charge of the law of the area.
Except he did.
And maybe to your pleasure, he didn't. He did not actually
fucking
escape
finally.
This time.
Jesus Christ.
He spent 6 months in prison waiting for his trial, which eventually did happen. And his sentence was to be sent to the gallows. On the day of his execution, it wasn't being done by any professionals. Where the town was that he was being held didn't have proper gallows. So they made a makeshift gallows for the 3 of them, put them on boxes, and one at a time were kicking the box out from each one of them.
Oh my God.
The first one wasn't Boone. And as they kicked the box out, the neck didn't snap. And for 15 to 20 minutes, according to records, he struggled and strangled, dying a slow, agonizing suffocation
Jesus
death.
Fucking Christ.
The next one, however, was supposed to be Boone. Now, the first one, by the way, I just want to throw this out there. It's a character I mostly skipped over because it's not important. But the first man who got killed, his name was Three-Fingered Jack. Just because it had to be.
Well, yeah,
right?
because he's an extra from a fucking pirate movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boone, however, was having none of that. He had no interest in having a slow, agonizing death. And so when it came time to kick the box under, Boone simply shouted, "Kick away, old fellow. It's my turn next. I'll be in hell with you in a minute." And then followed up with, "Every man for his principles. Hurrah for Jeff Davis. Let
Jeff
her rip."
Bezos.
I swear to God, I thought that's what you just said. I was like,
Hurrah for Jeff
know.
Bezos.
Hurrah
He
for
was the
Jeff
first time
Davis.
traveler. And he is me.
Hurrah for Jeff Davis. Let her rip. And he jumped off of his box. His neck immediately snapped.
Jesus.
But in a final act that can only be written, I said, by Hollywood, as his body swung back, he knocked the 3rd prisoner off of their box, and not hard enough where his neck snapped, and the 3rd prisoner got sent off his box,
Jesus
and for
fucking
20
Christ.
minutes was forced to strangle and struggle to death because Boone's body
even
swung
in death,
back.
he failed upwards. Unreal.
And that guy's name was Kentucky.
So in the end, why is he called the Kentucky Cannibal?
Because that's where he was born.
That sucks. That sucks.
But boys, that is the end of the tale of Boone Helm.
I love
the Kentucky Cannibal.
Wow, that was an adventure that I didn't know that I needed, but holy shit, I'm so glad we went on that adventure.
I can't believe you were like not going to do a whole other episode.
I was mostly going to skip through his militia stuff, the Dirty Harris stuff, but I'm glad you wanted more. It was
unfucking believable. All that shit.
I love his man. Something about his death is like the perfect note for just a man who failed into, like you
Honest
said,
to
upward
God.
and into success his whole life. And at the very end, even in his own death, he just took somebody out in the worst possible way.
Believe that he pulled that. Like, this guy sucks. This guy sucks so bad. Yet everything about him is like comically amazing. Like it shouldn't. The things that happen to him shouldn't happen to people. And yet here we are. Like, yep, this guy was a terrible person. But here's another wacky adventure he went on, and you're just like, oh my God.
When I got to the point in the research where it was just like, he dug out of prison. Are you kidding me? Like he pulled
in the exact same way that Clint Eastwood did in fucking Escape from Alcatraz. The exact same way.
Oh man. But again, it's so interesting because he's such a fascinating character, but he's a nobody in history. Like he doesn't make a splash because he didn't do
shift
anything the way America saw like itself, like Billy the Kid did, or wasn't romanticized in any way.
Right.
He was just a monster who couldn't be caught.
He's
the boogeyman.
There's nothing romantic
America.
about chance, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that's
people
true. Yeah,
love to have the idea that like something somewhere causes like good things to happen to good people and bad things to happen to bad people and like that kind of thing. And in his story, he's a bad person that incredibly good things happen to repeatedly. And it's but he doesn't every time he has an opportunity to better himself, he squanders it. And I think that is another reason why people are like, F that guy. And he's like not talked about because there's no moral to be gained from his life. He just kind of sucks.
Again, the fact that he got taken in by this rich rancher who was willing to let him live in the lap of luxury.
He was like, fuck it.
And he's like, that was fun. Slit his throat. Take what I can. Back into the wilds I go where I belong. And it's the image of like every time Boone Helm went into the woods with anybody and then he was only ever found by himself every time, just like scrawny and dying. How many, he went into the woods 4 or 5 times and was found scrawny and dying almost every single time. It's nuts, but I'm so glad we did that story. I did not think we would get like a 4-parter out of it. That was super fun. Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed. Next week, we'll do something lighter. And the next big topic I'm going into, kind of just to give a teaser, is stay in the realm of true crime, but not do a serial killer. Where I'm going to revisit something we did in the 20s, episode 26, I think it was. No, episode 26, 4 years ago. I think I really am ready to properly revisit Missing 411 in a way that I didn't have the resources to tackle way back in 2018. My mom was just
talking to me about this episode like today.
I need to redo episode. I want to re-talk about Missing 411. I want to do a much deeper dive on it. So that's going to be something I'm going to be working on for a while. But next week, we'll do something way more light, way more fun. Maybe Alex will do something. I don't know if he'd be able to. Maybe Jesse will bring something.
I've definitely got some stuff on the burner. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah. Life is crazy, you guys.
Yeah, no shit, man. I'm with you. Yeah. But we're off to go do a minisode on patreon.com/Chilluminati where you can get all kinds of fun exclusives and maybe, just maybe, you'll get an exclusive sale for the Mothman plush before anybody else gets them.
Maybe.
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 Okay, goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Anyway, me and my wife were sitting outside indulging on our porch one night, enjoying ourselves. I needed to go to the bathroom, so I stepped back inside, and after a few moments, I hear my wife go, "Holy shit, get out here." So I quickly dash back outside, and she's looking up at the sky in awe. I look up too, and there's a perfect line of dozen lights traveling across the sky.